Hey guys, welcome to another video from the Parrott Bros. Now today, yes, we are going to discuss the biggest topic in the TT forums, and that is 3.2 or 1.8T. Let's get into it. Okay, so I have compiled a massive list of information, some of it statistics, some of it facts, and some of it just general kind of knowledge and personal opinion. Now, both the cars are exactly the same in outer body stylings, looks, like chassis-wise, but there is some subtle differences. We'll go into those in a moment. What I want to do is just start with the main powerhouse. So the 1.8 turbo is a 1.8 litre turbocharged engine. The 3.2 is a 3.2 normally aspirated engine. So effectively, bigger capacity. Again, it makes more power. Standard, this is 225 horsepower. Now, I will do this video solely on the basing of comparison of a 225 versus the 3.2, only because this is the largest powered and probably most sold in the UK option. So standard is 225 horsepower, standard is 246. So there is a small difference. There is also a little bit more torque. However, given them both a stage 1 remap or a software map with no alterations, no air filters, nothing, just standard equipment driving a standard car into the tuners, you will see about 25 horsepower and about 20. So similar gains. The only noticeable change is when you go to the next stage, which is when you want to go for, say, some bolt-ons. The market is a lot larger on the 1.8 turbo, whereas on the 3.2 it is limited and expensive. Not impossible, but limited. The 225 is a massive platform. The 1.8 turbo is a massive platform for modifications. There is a plethora of stuff. There is multiple companies making the same thing, which does mean there is a budget option and a more expensive option. With the 3.2, besides a cone filter, you can buy exhausts, but then you have to change manifolds, which then becomes very expensive. You can buy a catback exhaust, but what that will make difference in performance-wise is very minimal. Whereas the 1.8 turbo, you can buy, especially the second-hand market is very good. You can buy things like a larger turbo intake pipe, air filter. You can put an intercooler on. You can upgrade the fuel pump. There's loads of things you can do which will help you gain more horsepower. So coming to the next stage, if you were, say, you've done your stage 1 map, you wanted a little bit more, the 225 is going to win this one, because you can get, without doing any physical engine work, without splitting the engine, changing cams, doing porting and polishing and all that kind of stuff, the 225 will get the biggest increase. This will go up to somewhere in the region of 280, 285 without splitting the engine, limiting the torque to 300 foot-pounds. The best figures I've found online is about 268, and that's without having to do cams and things like that, but you will have had to have done exhaust work. So bang for buck, if you're looking for tuning, if you're looking for big power, unless you want to spend thousands, I mean, we're talking probably 5 to 10,000 to go big power, then the 225 is the one for you. The 3.2 you'll get a little bit from, but it definitely falls on that subject anyway. Tuning path-wise, for the 3.2, you've got things like superchargers, turbo kits, but then you're into the realms of 5 to 10,000 pounds minimum. So do bear that in mind. Again, with the 225, you can do a larger turbo. Again, loads of information online. I'll put some links down to some of the tuners should you want some information. Now, I'll also clarify some information and some statistics which I found interesting. Try not to shut my fingers in there. Is the differences between the Roadster and the Coupe. Luckily, I already have both. So figures-wise, when looking online, there is, I would say, a third of both were Roadsters, which is interesting because that means 2/3 is Coupes. Makes sense because you do see more Coupes than Roadsters. Another interesting fact is, on the 225, they do not make an automatic in the UK. They may make one elsewhere, but they do not make an automatic. So for the 147 non-V6, non-3.2s for sale, there is only 4 automatics available on eBay at the time of filming. Whereas on the 3.2, 2/3 of the 3.2s for sale are automatic. DSG, whatever you want to call it, you don't have a clutch pedal. Going into the figures even more, so I looked at a TT online, so this is, where are we now, May 2022. I typed in Mark 1 TT, literally that was it, Audi TT on eBay, and I searched for from 99 to 2005. And out of the 170 odd, there was 16 3.2s, the rest were 1.8 turbos. So there is not that many of these around in comparison. Like I said, in autos there was only 4 of these. In the 225, where they were 180s and 150s and whatever. Most of them were actually roadsters as well. But it shows you the amount available. So 3.2s are rarer, and they're also rarer in manual. Not to say that you can't get one, but the price is a little bit more. Now, I differ. The pricing. So I was looking for a 1999 to 2005 Audi TT. Pricing, I was going for, to try and find out sort of what was available and which one is going to be cheaper to buy. Now, I searched for a car between 75 and 100,000 miles because that's where I deem most cars to be. Any car under 75,000 miles, usually the prices are a bit all over the place because there's not that many and people kind of take the mick with the prices a little bit. Sometimes there's some dreamers, and whereas between 75 and 100 there's quite a few cars, so you get quite a nice sort of line as to pricing. Now, to buy a 1.8 turbo, you would be looking at between 3 and 4,000 for a nice example, one that I would buy myself. With that mileage, so between 75 and 100,000 miles, good service history, a nice car, being well looked after, that's the price you'll be looking at. Whereas the V6, exactly the same information, doesn't matter whether it's manual or auto, that was just in general. For a V6 or 3.2 in the same category of requirements, you're looking at 4,500 to 6,000, and there is only a couple between 4,500 and 5,500. So again, the price is a little bit more expensive. So value for money wise, the 225 will win that one. Let's move on to aesthetics. Now, the 3.2, I personally prefer the looks of the 3.2, and a lot of people do. There's a few key differences, and that is mainly the front and rear bumper. The front bumper has these louvres. It also has honeycomb grills at the side with this vent. It is slightly lower and it has a slightly nicer look to it. It's also shared with the Quattro Sport, and these bumpers are very popular. The grills do come on a V6, they also come on a facelift 225, so I won't comparisize that. On the rear you have the diffuser on the back bumper. That is a trait of a 3.2 and the Quattro Sport, and also the rear spoiler. Now these little things are very, very popular in both markets. People buy them when people are breaking 3.2s and they put them on their 225. So general styling wise, I will give it to the 3.2 because they do have the slightly nicer touches without spending 10 or 15 grand to buy a Quattro Sport. Another comparison we can move on to is brakes, a difference in braking potential. Now, on a 225, again, it is slightly different on the slower stuff. On a 225, they're 312mm discs with a single piston caliper. On the 3.2, however, they're a 334mm disc with a twin piston caliper, so you have better brakes. Rears are the same, so it is just the front brakes that differ. It is a nice upgrade and relatively cheap if you can get hold of them. So braking wise, I'll give that to the 3.2. Now, big topic, reliability. Now, all things aside that they share, like wipers, brakes, bearings, all that kind of stuff, and solely just down to this is just engine reliability, I would probably sway more towards the 3.2, regardless of gearboxes, because the auto is known to have some mechatronics issues potentially. So gearbox aside, the 3.2 I would say was better. Now the only reason I would say that is because there is less to go wrong. Providing it is maintained and looked after well, there is very little things that can go wrong, whereas with the 1.8, they're quite known for leaky rocket gaskets, coil packs. Obviously, it has a timing belt, so that has to be done regularly. You've got things like the PCV system. You have all the boost pipes and the intercoolers. There is so much more that could go wrong. I'm not saying that they're unreliable, because I have a few, and well, if you've seen my 200 videos, of course, they never break down. But there is more to go wrong on the 1.8 turbos. They should have had more servicing along the way, but it doesn't mean they have. So reliability-wise, ever so slightly better on the 3.2, both very good cars if they've been well looked after. Now, the other thing I forgot to mention was, out of the 225 and the 3.2, they both share the full Haldex four-wheel drive system. So that is a nice key feature between those. And the last point I'm going to have, and this is going to be a whole nother video because we're going to have a big discussion about it, I might even do a live about this, is the future classic potential. Now, given the figures, there is thousands of these, and when they come out, they went mad for them, and they're still going mad for them now. This is why we have the channel, and there is such a big community on the TTs. But which one will have the more future classic status? Of course, if you look at things like, let's say, for instance, a Renault 5 or a Vauxhall Nova or something like that in 2022, you can't buy a 1.2 four-door Lux Nova, which no one wanted back then. They're £2,500, £3,000 now. I wouldn't have given 50 quid for one of them 15 years ago. So as a platform, of course, they're going to be a future classic. They were an iconic car. They pulled Audi into the 2000s with a boom. They were a massive selling point, and they are still loved to this day. But which one of the two will be worth more money? I will go with the 3.2 on this one, and only because of the styling. I think because and the fact that they're rarer now means in the future they're going to be worth even more, because they're not that easy to get now for a nice one. So if you think 10 years time, once if say for instance the chains have gone, the gearbox has gone, and they get broken, there's going to be less of these than there are of these. I'm not saying that the 1.8 turbo versions won't be a great future classic and pull strong money, because they will. It's not like I've got a few and I'm banking on it. I mean, behind my back. But I reckon the 3.2 will just pip it a little bit, just because of the body stylings. And if you have it, has it come out of the factory, whereas technically if you put the 3.2 stuff on the 1.8 turbo, you're sort of pimping out a 1.8 turbo, whereas with the 3.2, if it's all factory original, I think that'll be worth slightly more. What do you think? What do you think? Put down in the description. Tell me what in the description, in the comments, what I'm on about. Put down in the comments what you think is going to be a bigger future classic, and we will come back to this in, what, 10 years' time, and we'll have a chat about it. Personal opinion, what do I prefer? It's a tough one, and I'm going to do the typical YouTube thing and say I like them both. It's up for you to decide. I've given you the facts. I have both. The 3.2, I would say if I'm going on a long road trip, this is probably the one I'll take. But if it's sunny, that is the one I'll take, because I want to have my hair waving in the wind and my beard in my face and all of that. So if you want a cruiser, then the 3.2 is probably the one for you. If you're a B-road warrior and you want to go absolutely racing about, you want to do loads of modifications, you want it to be as fast as it can be, you want to be under that engine bay every weekend, tinkering, changing hoses, then the 1.8 turbo is the one for you. Can I help you pick it? I can give you some information either way, but for me, this one sounds better. That is literally the kind of the deciding. If I had to have one of the two, I'd probably have a manual 3.2, just because then you can sit there and just bum, 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 bum. The manual is the better option. I prefer the manual because if you've got cruise control, you don't always need the auto. It's nice, and when I'm being lazy, RS5. When you're being lazy, the DSG is definitely the better option. But if I was going to pick just having one TT, I would probably have a manual 3.2, because then you get the best of both worlds. You get the sound, you also get the manual, you've got the cruise if you need it. Hi, darling. See you later. Have a great day at work. I'm not buying any more cars, I promise. Yeah, the 3.2 is probably slightly better. It's not as tunable, but then again, you only have one driving license. They sound lovely. They've got the nicer features. Originally, there's less to go wrong, which is always nice. Reliability. This is probably the one I'm going to take to the Nürburgring this year. But I find myself driving this more, and that is just literally because it's a convertible. But I mean, if I could have, oh, there you go. So if I could have a Roadster 3.2 manual, that would be the car I probably would choose. That would probably be my favourite, only because the sound, the 1.8 turbos, they can sound great, but the 3.2 just has that, oh, that burble, the loveliness. And honestly, when I drive this, when I drive past, people are like, oh yeah, they know. That or they're like, has he gone yet? I hope you found that interesting. Let me know what you think, what you would have. What would be your ideal TT down in the comments? Would it be a roadster? Would it be a coupe? Would it be a 1.8 turbo? Would it be a 3.2? The world is your oyster. Until next time, guys, thank you for watching. Bye for now.